Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Boku no Hero Academia, aka My Hero Academia, Chapter 40. Okay, and this chapter has three parts to it. It shows the end of the fight, then it shows the confrontation between Todoroki and Endeavor, and then it shows Izuku. Okay, stuff that he's doing. Okay, now as far as the fight goes. Endeavor, man. This dude was just having a ball. He's just sitting there like, shout out! He's like shouting to the heavens and stuff. People in the stands are like, they don't even know what to think. They're like, oh my god, what is wrong with this dude? He's like, yo, he was having a ball, man. Seeing Shoto uses fire like that, man. This dude was the happiest guy in the world. Alright. Todoroki, he just goes out there. He's like, you know what? You did this, Izuku, and now you're gonna have to live with the consequences. He goes in for one final attack. Izuku does the same thing, and Cement Toss, and maybe even Midnight too. I don't know what her quirk is, but it looked like she was preparing to do something, like ripping off part of her sleeve. It looked like she was planning on doing something. But Cement Toss obviously got involved in this fight. Alright, and it was weird because they just pretended it didn't happen. Because after the blast, Izuku gets blown out of the ring and Todoroki's still standing, so they announced that Todoroki wins. But it's like, wait, are you just going to pretend like that interference didn't happen? Like, if you're interfering in the match, then that must mean you're ending the match, right? So why are you pretending like the match has ended because of Midoriya getting thrown out of the ring? No, the match should have ended because you interfered. So I find it weird that they interfere in this and then just pretend like they never actually interfered. And they just like write it off, like whatever, But okay, okay, sure. I guess Todoroki wins. All right, Todoroki wins. All right. Then he ends up going into the back, talking with Endeavor. And Endeavor, man, this dude's acting like their relationship's been repaired, like they're best buds, He's offering to train him and work beside him, and Todoroki's like, dude, I'm just gonna, pretend that you don't exist. Which I feel like Endeavor wouldn't really care, really. Like, I feel like as long as Todoroki becomes number one, then Endeavor's fine. The one thing he just wants Todoroki to watch out for is to not be too reckless to the point where he gets himself injured or killed, because that would lower his chances of actually surpassing All Might and becoming number one. Okay, to injury more so than being killed, because if he's killed, then he obviously can't become number one. As far as his chances being lowered, they would be an injury, because if he gets killed, his chances wouldn't exist at all. All right, but you know what I mean. All right, so Todoroki and Endeavor, their relationship is getting interesting. Todoroki says he has to think a little bit before he might have used his fire half this time, but he has to think about whether or not it's okay for him to use it by forgetting the fact that Endeavor exists. He has to think about whether or not that is an acceptable situation or acceptable condition for using his power. All right. But yeah, that's that part of the chapter. The third part, like I said, is Izuku. His body got completely, totally wrecked, which Recovery Girl was not happy about. She was scolding All Might for actually letting him get that reckless in the first place, and not telling him beforehand. Like, there are certain limits that you just shouldn't surpass. Okay, like there's just something. At some point you need to realize that there has to be some point where you realize, I cannot go this far. I cannot go beyond this point. And All Might always just tells him, go out there and do whatever you can, and Recovery Girl is scolding him for that, and telling him, you better not congratulate him, you better not praise him for what he just did, because that's something that does not deserve praise. All right. And then we end up seeing Suyu and Ida and Ocha and Mineta come in and talk to Izuku for a little bit. And it was funny because All Might was there, and he wasn't in like All Might form; he was in normal form. So he was like, "Uh-oh, I hope they don't recognize me." But they didn't. Which was Ocha was sitting there like, "Who are you?" Like she was looking, but but they didn't end up figuring it out. It was funny though. All right, but The chapter ends with Izuku kind of just telling All Might about why he felt he had to say those things, because people in the stands are wondering, like, why is he doing this? Does he want to lose? Like, what's going on here? Why? Just why? You know? But he tells All Might, I just had to. I just couldn't let this go. I couldn't let it go, and I had to say those things. I just had to. All right. And All Might acknowledges those feelings and says that giving help that isn't asked for is part of what makes a true hero. So, um, he Izuku does want to win. He did want to win the tournament, but at the same time, what he wants even more is to be a hero. And whether it's chapter 1 or chapter 40, we've seen him act in ways that make him a true hero. Like he'll put himself on the line to help other people if he believes that they truly do need that help. Okay. He helped Bakugo in the very beginning, despite the fact that he didn't have a quirk of his own and probably was just going to get killed. And now, despite the fact that it just cost him, it shattered his arm and cost him the match, he put himself in harm's way to help Todoroki. All right, so he's clearly acting in ways that make him a true hero. So I think that's an acceptable. I think that kind of logic it makes this conclusion acceptable. It makes this outcomes. It makes that outcome good. So and acceptable. So yeah. Overall, I will give this chapter a 7.5 out of 10. It was kind of quick. I was surprised when I reached the end of the chapter as quickly as I did. I am still kind of confused about why they had Cementos get involved in the match if they were just going to pretend it didn't happen in the first place. I guess just to push how powerful their clash was, that he had to get involved, or else they would have been seriously injured. But then just pretend it didn't happen. You could have just said, listen, Todoroki wins. Okay, Todoroki wins. But to say like, oh look, Midoriya, he's out of the ring. That means Todoroki wins. Like you're literally just pretending it didn't happen. So to say he lost because of Midoriya being out of the ring is to insinuate that the interference didn't even happen in the first place. They didn't even address it. So that I wasn't a big fan of that, though it wasn't like a big deal. But still, there was a quick conversation between Todoroki and Endeavor that was cool. Then he's at the end being acknowledged as acting like a true hero, so that was cool. So overall, I'll give the chapter 7.5 out of 10, and that's that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at BlacklistOTA, and I'll see you guys next time.